King Yella just admitted he's broke and the way he lives today is nothing like fans expected. The Chicago rapper has lost everything to drinking, drugs, and gambling. But what he's doing now just to survive has people seriously concerned. Let me catch you up. It started with a video. King Yella sat down and told his audience straight up that he's broke and that he lost everything. King Yella said he went broke from drinking, drugs, and gambling. No hedging, no bragging, no punchline. Just a grown man on camera admitting the money's gone. The clip spread fast. Within days, it was everywhere. Instagram Reels, YouTube reaction channels, hip-hop blogs all running some version of the same headline. King Yella reveals he's broke. One of the videos that pushed it into the mainstream conversation carried the title, King Yella reveals he is broke. I lost everything. And it wasn't some random account posting it. It was framed as breaking news in hip-hop circles. But the money wasn't even the part that hit hardest. In a separate, longer sit-down, Yella got emotional talking about his son. Chicago rapper King Yella gets emotional while opening up about losing everything, feeling like he failed his son and dealing with the possibility that his son could go to prison. That's a different kind of broke. That's not a bank account. That's a man looking at his kid's future and feeling like he's the reason it might go sideways. One of the videos documenting this moment carried a title that laid it all out in one line. He lost everything. He failed his son, and his son might be locked up. It reads like a confession booth transcript, not a rap interview. The uploader described it as him being done hiding from the truth, saying it's time to let the world know exactly how he got here. Now here's where the story gets interesting, because King Yella didn't just get sympathy. He got reactions, real ones, from real names in the hip-hop media space. And they didn't all say the same thing. First reaction, academics, the influencer known for jumping on rapper drama, and financial collapses in real time, put out a video specifically framed around the fall. The title alone tells you the tone. Academics reacts to King Yella saying he's broke, calling it down bad. That's not a neutral headline. That's a guy known for calling out artists when they're struggling, putting Yella in that category publicly, in front of an audience of millions. Second reaction, Cam Capone News, the same channel that had interviewed Yella just weeks earlier during one of the wildest moments of his year. More on that later. Cam Capone's platform became a place where Yella's story kept unfolding in real time, one unscripted moment after another. Third reaction, a commentary channel that pushed back on the pile-on entirely, with a video titled "Everyone is Getting This King Yella Situation Wrong." This creator took the position that the internet was missing the actual point of what Yella said, that people were laughing at the collapse, instead of sitting with what caused it. Whether you agree with that take or not, its existence tells you something. This wasn't a one-day story. It had enough weight that people were arguing about how to even talk about it. So within the span of about a week, you've got the guy himself confessing, one major hip-hop commentator mocking the fall, another documenting it as a slow-motion tragedy, and a third defending him. That's three distinct lanes of reaction, all pointed at the same set of words: drinking, drugs, gambling, lost everything, failed my son. And that's before you even get to Yella's own social media. When people online started laughing at his situation, he didn't stay quiet. He'd already shown, months earlier during a different scandal, that he reads every comment and clocks every joke. He wrote on his Instagram stories at the time, "Y'all think everything a joke, I hate the internet. Y'all be so fucked up on my soul." That's the same guy now telling people he's broke. The pattern is consistent: public breakdown, public mockery, public defense of himself. What makes this land differently than your average celebrity money story is the son part. Rappers say "I'm broke" all the time as a marketing line. It sells a comeback narrative, but tying it directly to a kid who might be facing prison time, that's not a flex. That's a man who sounds like he's genuinely scared, and an audience that picked up on it immediately, because the reaction videos didn't treat it like a joke either. Even the ones with clickbait titles slowed down to actually sit with the son's situation. So that's the hook. That's what happened. A rapper stood in front of a camera and admitted the money's gone, admitted the drinking and the drugs and the gambling took it, and admitted he's scared for his son. Three different corners of hip-hop media picked it up within days. Now we need to rewind and figure out who this guy actually is, because the fall only makes sense once you understand what he built and how fast Chicago's streets shaped every part of it. Before any of this, before the broke confession, before the viral collapse, before any of it, King Yella was a name that came out of one of the most dangerous corners of American hip-hop. Chicago drill music, born on the South Side. King Yella is a drill rapper from the South Side of Chicago and a member of the gangster Disciples gang. with music that's intense, gritty, and aggressive, filled with stark narratives about crime, violence, and sex. He didn't come up slow. He began releasing singles in 2010 and has since issued several mixtapes, including Yella Corleone and several volumes of Ski's World. Tracks like Swag Check put him on the map early, and he built a catalog fast: Demons, First Day Out, Hurricane Wrist, Trap God. Songs with titles that basically write his biography before you even hit play. That South Side upbringing wasn't a talking point for him. It was the whole engine of the music. He grew up in an environment shaped by gang affiliation from a young age, and it bled into everything he made. One biography lays it out plainly. He was born into a family with gang ties, spent part of his childhood with his mother before being sent back to Chicago, and that return marked the moment's street life. And the gangster disciples became central to his story, pushed further by his father's own connections. Then came 2016, and it's the kind of moment that would define the rest of his career, whether he wanted it to or not. While filming a video for the song Black Lives Matter from the mixtape I Think I'm Tupac, he was shot twice, but survived. Think about that for a second. He wasn't shot in some unrelated street incident. He was shot mid-shoot, making the exact kind of content that made his name. The violence he rapped about walked right onto set. Surviving that didn't stop the legal trouble that followed him for years. He didn't just brush with the system, he lived inside it. One profile put it bluntly: he's gone to jail more times than he went to school. He hit mainstream attention around 2013, and shortly after, he was back behind bars for months. Then came the big one, a multi-year prison stretch. Different sources put the dates slightly differently, with one describing 3 years from 2018 to 2021, and another describing 2017 to 2021, but the through line is the same either way. Right as Chicago drill was exploding into a national sound and dragging names like FBG Duck, King Von, and Lil Jojo into the mainstream conversation, King Yella was locked up and missing the moment. That absence matters more than people give it credit for. Drill music in Chicago moved fast in those years. Artists who stayed visible, stayed active, stayed dropping, they're the ones who turned local buzz into real money and real platforms. Yella lost years of that window sitting in a cell. When he came home, he didn't try to just rebuild as a rapper. He pivoted hard into YouTube and social media, turning himself into a personality as much as a musician. He built a channel where he reacted to hip-hop news, weighed in on beefs, and told stories from his own life, and it actually worked. Over time, he shifted his focus to YouTube and social media, where he started reacting to trending topics and sharing opinions on hip-hop culture, and his YouTube channel now serves as a major part of his career, offering content that ranges from music releases to social commentary, using this platform to maintain his influence, connect with fans, and generate income. One estimate puts his channel at 263,000 subscribers with tens of millions of total views, generating a modest but real monthly return, just off ad revenue. That's not superstar money, but it's a working income stream, one that gave him relevance long after his music career slowed down. While his music career has slowed down, his online presence has kept his name alive in the industry. So by the time you get to this year, you're not looking at some anonymous street rapper who suddenly popped up broke. You're looking at a guy with 15 years of public history, gang ties, a shooting he survived on camera, years in prison, and a second act built entirely on being visible online. Every part of that history primed him to be someone people watched closely, which is exactly why, when the money story broke and when the drinking spiraled into a public health scare, there was already an audience sitting there ready to watch it happen in real time. And that audience had questions, because for years, the number attached to his name wasn't broke, it was millions. Here's where the story gets genuinely confusing, because almost nobody agrees on how much money King Yella actually had before he said it was gone. Go looking for his net worth, and you'll get wildly different answers depending on which page you land on. Multiple profiles from throughout the last 2 years peg him at around $2 million. With an estimated net worth of $2 million, King Yella is a Chicago-based drill rapper and songwriter known for his gritty, aggressive lyrics that reflect the harsh realities of street life. Another site repeats the exact same figure into 2026, describing his income as coming from streaming on Spotify and Apple Music, ad revenue from his YouTube channel, brand promotions, and merchandise sales. King Yella has an estimated net worth of $2 million USD as of 2026. and he makes money through multiple income streams built around music and digital media. But not every source agrees on that number. One breakdown from late last year put the figure at less than a fifth of that, estimating his worth at around $400,000, saying he makes most of his money through sales, streaming, and live performances of music. As of 2025, King Yella net worth is estimated to be around $400,000, with he makes most of his money on sales, streaming, and live performances of music. And although not one of the richest artists, he is slowly gaining career and wealth. Another lands right in the middle, putting him at $1 million. As of 2025, King Yella's net worth is estimated to be around $1 million, with his income coming from various sources including YouTube ad revenue, music streaming, brand deals, and social media monetization. That spread, $400,000 on the low end, $2 million on the high end, tells you something important. Nobody actually had hard numbers on this guy. These were estimates built off public appearances, guessed at streaming royalties, and assumptions about how much a channel with 250,000 subscribers brings in. Which means when he says he's broke now, there was never a rock-solid public figure to even compare it against. He wasn't a guy with an audited fortune who suddenly vanished. He was a guy whose wealth was always speculative, and now, the speculation has flipped from he's worth millions to he's got nothing. What we do have a clearer picture of is where the money, whatever the real number was, actually went. Yella never hid his spending habits. Descriptions of his lifestyle consistently point to the same pattern. Heavy spending on fashion, jewelry, and cars, flaunted constantly on social media. King Yella spends a significant portion of his money on fashion, jewelry, and cars, often showing off his lifestyle on social media, including expensive chains, designer clothes, and flashy vehicles. That's before you even factor in the 3 things he says actually drained him: drinking, drugs, and gambling. Those aren't line items on a balance sheet you can track. They're the kind of expenses that quietly eat a fortune, while the outside world still sees the chains and the cars and assumes everything's fine. There's also his YouTube channel to consider as its own separate financial story, because it complicates the picture even further. One estimate pegged the channel's total value at around $112,000, generating a bit under $900 a month purely from ad revenue. King Yella has 263,000 subs, with a net worth of approximately $112,000, and makes approximately $880 per month. That's real income, but it's not life-changing income. It's the kind of number that helps pay a bill, not the kind that rebuilds a fortune lost to years of gambling and substance use. Compare that to another estimate that claimed he was pulling in $500,000 a year across music sales, YouTube revenue, live performances, and brand deals, with daily earnings estimated between $1,500 and $2,000, depending on content engagement. King Yella earns approximately $500,000 per year, mainly through music sales, YouTube revenue, live performances, and brand partnerships, and on a daily basis, King Yella makes around $1,500 to $2,000, depending on his content engagement, merchandise sales, and online promotions. If even a portion of that was real, it means the money coming in and the money disappearing were happening at the same time, for years, without the outside world noticing the gap. That's the part that makes his confession land differently than a typical celebrity money story. This wasn't a guy who made one bad investment or got scammed by a manager. By his own account, it was steady, ongoing loss, drink by drink, hand by hand at the table, day by day, chipping away at a fortune that may never have been as solid as the headlines made it sound in the first place. And that pattern of things slipping out of control in plain sight didn't just show up in his bank account. It showed up on camera, in one of the most talked about moments of his entire year. A night that started as just another interview and ended with him on the floor. If you want to understand how King Yella actually got to the point of saying "I lost everything," you have to go back to one specific night, because it's the clearest window anyone's gotten into the drinking he later admitted was part of his downfall. He sat down for what was supposed to be a normal sit-down interview with Cam Capone News. The No Love City artist had a 2-hour conversation on YouTube channel Cam Capone News. Except this wasn't a normal interview, because the whole time, he had a bottle of Crown Royal in his hand. The rapper was downing a bottle of Crown Royal throughout the 2-hour chat. Not sipping, downing. Yella began the interview with a fairly full bottle of Crown Royal, but by the 2-hour mark, the bottle had dwindled down to a few swigs remaining. By the 2-hour mark, he was visibly intoxicated, Throughout the conversation, Yella took swigs from a Crown Royal bottle, which had him intoxicated by the 2-hour mark. And that's exactly when Cam Capone pulled up footage on his phone, a video of Tory Lanez getting stabbed during a prison brawl. Yella reacted to a video of Tory Lanez being stabbed during a prison brawl, expressing shock before falling out of his chair. Watching that footage, mid-reaction, Yella suddenly leaned forward and started pounding on his own chest. What happened next is hard to watch, even described secondhand. The MC proceeded to close his eyes and spit up a little before saying, "What the FK?" and falling backward off his chair onto the floor. Somebody off camera rushed over immediately. Immediately after the scary moment, someone from behind the camera rushed over to help King Yella, asking, "You good?" The footage cut to black before anyone watching could see whether he answered. He appeared to be retching off camera as the crew rushed to his aid. The clip spread everywhere within hours, and the reaction split almost instantly into two camps. People worried about him, and people who assumed it was a stunt for clout. Yella addressed that second group directly, and he didn't sound like a guy in on a joke. He seemingly responded to those who laughed at the video on his Instagram stories, writing, "Y'all think everything a joke, I hate the internet. Y'all be so fucked up on my soul." What makes this moment worth revisiting now isn't just the shock value. It's what he'd said just before it happened, earlier in that same conversation about trying to change his life. He told Cam Capone he was living in Las Vegas at that point and had cut back on going out. Prior to his scary fall, King Yella had gotten candid about some recent lifestyle changes he was making since moving to Las Vegas, explaining that he no longer goes out to clubs. He even framed it around his age, saying something like, "I'm 35. Am I really about to be in the club all day? I've been doing that my whole life. Doesn't this stuff get old to you? I'm 35 and I'm finna be in the club all day," he said during the Cam Capone news interview. "I've been doing that all my life. This S2 don't get old and tired to you." He talked about swapping the club nights for something calmer. Golfing, bowling, different stuff, he said, describing how he'd go out maybe once in a blue moon instead of constantly. Noting that he'll go out every blue moon, King Yella went on to list off the activities he prefers to do instead, saying, "We finna go golfing, bowling, different ST." Read that next to the fact that he was chain drinking Crown Royal for 2 straight hours during the same sit-down, and you start to see the real shape of the problem. This wasn't a guy who didn't know he had an issue. He clearly knew he was talking about trying to slow down, trying to grow up, trying to leave the constant nightlife behind. And in the same breath, on the same night, in front of the same camera, the old pattern took over completely and put him on the floor. That's the piece that connects directly to what came weeks later. The drinking that dropped him mid-interview is the same drinking he later named as one of 3 things that took everything from him. King Yella said he went broke from drinking, drugs, and gambling. The collapse wasn't a random health scare disconnected from anything else. It was a live demonstration of exactly the habit he'd eventually blame for the money being gone. And Vegas matters here too, in a way that's almost too on the nose. He'd moved there talking about golfing and bowling as his new hobbies of choice. But Vegas isn't just golf courses, it's tables, it's machines. It's a city built entirely around the same impulse-driven spending that gambling runs on. Whether the move to Vegas fed the gambling side of his collapse or just happened to overlap with it, the timing lines up with everything he said afterward about losing it all. So by the time the "I'm broke" video dropped, this wasn't coming out of nowhere. There was a very public, very physical warning sign months earlier. A grown man drinking himself onto the floor of a studio in front of a camera while talking in the same breath about trying to change. The fall had already started. Everyone just watched it happen without knowing what it meant yet. So where does all of this leave King Yella today? Broke, by his own words. Scared for his son, by his own words. And still somehow in front of a camera talking about it. Because that's the one thing that hasn't changed through any of this. He keeps showing up and saying it out loud instead of hiding. That's actually the through line of his entire career, if you step back far enough. He survived getting shot twice on a video shoot and kept making music. He served years behind bars and came home building an entirely new career, from a phone camera and a YouTube upload button. He got humiliated on a live stream, watched millions of people laugh at him, and instead of disappearing, he posted about it. Now he's saying the money's gone and he's still posting about that too. The son situation is the part that doesn't get resolved by the end of any of these videos, and it's the part that actually matters most. Chicago rapper King Yella gets emotional while opening up about losing everything, feeling like he failed his son, and dealing with the possibility that his son could go to prison. That's an open thread. Nobody in any of the coverage says what happens next for that kid, whether there's a court date, whether there's a way out. It's just sitting there, unresolved, hanging over everything else in the story. Meanwhile, the disagreement over what he's actually worth hasn't gone away either. You've still got pages out there right now claiming he sits on $2 million, built off streaming royalties and YouTube ad revenue and merchandise. King Yella has an estimated net worth of $2 million USD as of 2026. And you've got him on camera telling his own audience it's gone. Both of those things are floating around the internet at the same time, and it's on the viewer to decide which one to believe, the outside estimate or the man himself. What's not up for debate is the pattern underneath all of it. Drinking that put him on the floor mid-interview. Drugs and gambling he named himself as part of what wiped him out. A move to Vegas that came wrapped in talk of slowing down and living cleaner, right before things clearly didn't slow down at all. And a channel, a career, a whole public identity built on being honest about the mess in real time, instead of managing it quietly behind closed doors, like most people in his position would. That's why 3 different corners of hip-hop media reacted to this the way they did. Academics framed it as a cautionary tale, a guy going down bad in front of everyone. Cam Capone's platform had already captured the rawest, most literal version of the collapse months earlier, whether he meant to or not. And the pushback video argued the internet was missing the point entirely, that this was a man in real pain being turned into a punchline. All 3 of those reactions can be true about the same set of facts. That's what makes this one stick around longer than a normal viral moment. There's no single clean way to feel about it. What happens from here isn't settled. He's still making content, he's still talking. Whether the son's situation resolves one way or the other, whether the drinking and the drugs and the gambling get put behind him, or keep pulling at whatever he's got left, whether the YouTube channel becomes the thing that actually rebuilds him, the way it once gave him a second act after prison, none of that has an ending yet. It's still playing out, one upload at a time, in front of an audience that, for better or worse,